I'm from the other side of IOM, the part that does humanitarian assistance at the point of displacement. So I'm based in Turkey and in Gaziantep, where in terms of context, 4 million migrants and refugees, 3.5 million are Syrians, the rest are Afghanis, Iraqis, and other nationalities.
Did I open your...
Okay. So I'll go straight to our selection process of beneficiaries, because we have very limited resources, huge magnitude of needs, and because it's huge, there are also so many other service providers, those who give humanitarian assistance. So we need to be very careful with selecting beneficiaries so we don't duplicate efforts, waste resources. Another aspect of it is that our assistance is very material, mostly material. It's humanitarian. So we really want to be careful that those who receive them are those who are really in need, and then we don't develop dependency and destroy their traditional coping mechanisms. So after the selection is done through identification of the underserved locations and also underserved communities and individuals, and it has to be done in partnership with especially the local authorities, local government units. And then as we go along, we identify more needs as we immerse ourselves in those communities. So in the last 2 years, since 2018, we managed to assist 176,000 migrants and refugees, a drop in the bucket if you consider there's 4 million that need assistance in the country. So you can see there the areas of our intervention: basic needs, education, food security, livelihoods, protection, and health. So in terms of basic needs, it's assistance during winter. In the beginning, there were lots of blankets distributed, kitchen sets, even coal, and so on and so forth. Next. Okay. So this now is our one of our major areas of interventions. You can see on the screen. These are rehabilitation of parks, additional classrooms, sports facilities, community centers where migrants and members of host communities can come together and interact. Basically, the idea is to expand the absorption capacity of communities so that migrants and members of host communities don't begin to fight over limited resources of the locality. Next. Okay, so shelter. In the beginning, migrants and Syrians arrived in Turkey. They were accommodated in camps managed by the government. And then massive displacement started, and they started spreading into the cities and into communities through their own devices. In the beginning, people were assuming that government will take care of their shelter needs. But as we immerse ourselves, we distributed humanitarian assistance. We started seeing families in barns. We started seeing families in shacks. And there's winter in Turkey, and it can be very cold. We also started seeing families renting accommodations, but paying the rent through labor. So very prone to exploitation, for example. And so we started implementing shelter assistance. And we started assessing the needs, and it was massive. And so it became one of our major area of intervention after that. Yes. So I've mentioned earlier basic needs. So these are a lot of blankets, kitchen sets, clothes, could be coal. In the beginning, we were giving in kind. And then we realized that the market is very stable in Turkey. There's lots of supplies available to the market, to the buyers. So now we're giving the assistance through cash vouchers, so they can go to the shops, redeem them. And in that way, you less the incidence of beneficiaries or the migrants selling the goods so that they can get cash and buy medicine or other needs. So that evolved, and I would say it empowered migrants and the refugees. Next, livelihood projects. So from humanitarian assistance, you want migrants and refugees to graduate into a more sustainable kind of coping with their situation. So we also provide livelihood assistance. There are a lot of skilled among the population of the migrants. So we do in-kind grants so that those who are skilled can immediately start their own businesses. We also do job placement and referrals because there are so many qualified also among them. We do entrepreneurship trainings, especially to youth. We partner with local organizations so that they can undergo training, they can have the facilities where they can hone their skills and develop business skills. Next. Education, schools, transportation. You know, the government of Turkey is very generous towards the migrants. So in the beginning, when they arrived, schools were opened and education was provided freely. But then, as we immersed ourselves, we found that so many of the children could not go to the schools, to the free education, because they needed transportation. They could only afford shelters and accommodations from remote areas. So immediately it went so big. The program at some point was assisting 20,000 children every day. 800 buses were hired by IOM, crawling all over the place, transporting kids to school and back. There's a lot of protection concerns also there, so we expanded our intervention to provide what you call them, escorts from among the teachers, so that the pupils can be protected. Protection projects. There's so many interventions under this area. A major one would be emergency case management. There are special needs out there, a lot. So they cannot just get those assistance from the standard packages that humanitarian organizations are providing. So for example, we would encounter need for special clothes for burnt victims. So we buy those. A lot of requests for hearing aids, wheelchairs, even reading glasses. So customized assistance to refugees and migrants. Community centers. We need to give a space for intermingling, interaction of host community members who are also vulnerable to foster social cohesion. So some of the activities are sports activities, common iftar during Ramadan season, and others. So in terms of learnings, we need to take seriously assessments of the needs of the communities, not just of the migrants and refugees, but also of the vulnerable members of host communities, so that you don't divide them and create tension. So not just collection of data, but immersion. Through immersion, you learn a lot more of the needs and be more effective in responding to needs. Partnerships, coordinations, this is very important. We know this, so government, donors, civil society, NGOs, the academe, private sectors, even influencers on Instagram, on media, and then, of course, the communities. And finally, migrants, helping migrants. We have encountered former beneficiaries of our livelihood assistance, for example, graduating to become employers of other migrants and host communities. And that's very consoling to see. Thank you.